film that I recently caught on DVD, because it didn't really seem like it lasted very long in theaters, was a film called Flight.
Yep.
Which is the film that Denzel Washington was nominated for. Didn't win for, unfortunately, but caught it, watched it, and was really actually kind of surprised by it a little bit. Because Robert Zemeckis, it's his latest film. We saw that it was opening, or was it the closing film at Chicago?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the closing film, but we had obviously already left town before then. But a lot of people were looking forward to it. You actually saw Robert Zemeckis there.
He sat like 5 feet away from me.
Yeah. So he directed this one, and it stars Denzel Washington, has a bunch of other people that you would recognize.
Don Cheadle is in it. Bruce Greenwood has a small part. John Goodman has a small part.
Yeah.
A lot of people with very small parts in it.
I can't think of the woman's name. She's on Law and Order SVU.
She was also, I hope I'm thinking of the same actor. She was also in the last Sherlock Holmes film.
Possibly.
The redhead?
Oh no, I was thinking of the black woman,
Oh,
flight
that I don't know.
attendant.
Yeah.
She's I think she's a DA.
Okay.
Perhaps on Law and Order
I haven't
SVU.
watched it in a long time.
Yeah. Anyways, she's familiar. You would recognize her from that. But yes, the other girl, is familiar. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think that's what I saw her in too. I'd only heard sort of inklings of what the movie was about, but essentially what it boils down to is you've got Denzel Washington, who is a pilot, who is a functional alcoholic, who saves these people by landing this aircraft in the most insane way possible, is really the only way of describing it.
And what's interesting is that's how the movie starts.
Right.
That's the first half hour of the movie. And that's what I found so fascinating about it. It's almost like an inverted movie, you know?
Sure.
It's like the climax, the thing that like, whoa, I can't believe that happened, was like the first thing you see.
And that's kind of what Zemeckis has done in previous films. Like I got a very solid Castaway vibe, mainly just because the main character is involved in an airplane crash, essentially. But then all the personal drama happens following that. And I think that was perhaps a device that worked for him in that movie. And he thought, well, now I can, put it in this one as well. So I don't know if he was exactly involved in the writing process of it, but he's usually pretty close to whomever, his writer is on projects like that. So I got that vibe from him, and I'm trying to think what he had done sort of post Castaway.
It was all the animated stuff, wasn't it?
It was all the animated stuff, but I thought maybe he had done something else.
I don't remember
in between.
if he's done a live action since then.
Well, I think we described what the movie is pretty simple in its elements.
And basically, the thrust of the film after the plane crash is
the investigation. Yeah, and then sort of his trying to cover up the fact that he was potentially under the influence while flying an aircraft.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating because the film makes Denzel's character the hero and the villain. He's both.
Yeah, he is.
And there's this great scene where, he starts to be like, after the plane crash, it's like his wake-up moment, that a lot of drug addicts or alcoholics probably have, where they're like, oh my God, this is the thing. I should have, this. So he goes home and he clears everything out, and it's like he has this life-changing experience that makes him want to change his life. But the pressure of dealing with the life-changing experience, because the media wants to talk to him, there's all the investigators saying, you're going to go to jail, we're trying to protect you, but you're going to, you're in a lot of trouble. It leads him right back to the things that he's trying to, that he had sort of turned over a new leaf, and then he comes right back around.
Well, and the big part of it, too, is because he saved most of the people on the aircraft.
Exactly.
I think if everyone had died, except for him and a select few other people, perhaps he would have been sort of straight and narrow from there on out. But he's kind of like, no, I did awesome. Like, I'm awesome. I did, there's nobody else, and you're telling me there's nobody else that could have done this. It's a miracle. Yeah. And I was the one that performed it. And so I think that doesn't help his cause either. There's a couple things that I didn't like about the movie, and Craig Simpson actually sort of helped me sort of figure out one of them. One of them is the soundtrack. At times it seems very deliberate. Yeah. Just, okay, like here's a scene of them doing cocaine or, drinking alcohol. So let's, get this standard, Rolling Stones tune.
Like I'm feeling all right, not feeling too good myself, when he's like, not feeling too good,
Right,
and it's
right.
like I don't know if I would have noticed that without somebody mentioning it.
It's a
but
little too
it
tongue
did,
in
yeah.
cheek, in terms of what it's trying to do, and he's known for doing that. I mean, that's if honestly, if you can get your hands on on select music like that, I mean, you should probably take advantage of it. But it was a little too obvious at times. I think the movie would have functioned better with perhaps something composed rather than just sort of mixed together with sort of music from artists. And the other thing that I really was sort of distracted by was the woman. There's a woman that he ends up meeting in the hospital, and she's got problems of her own, and she kind of tries to help him out a little bit. I didn't think that sort of their coming together really worked that well. Her reveal, I was kind of questioning who she was for like
Exactly.
a really long time.
They reveal her before she has any real connection to the story.
Yeah, and it was kind of strange how perhaps it could have been saved by editing.
Yeah.
Perhaps sort of move her introduction maybe 10, 15 minutes later in the
Yeah.
movie or something.
Well,
it just seemed very strange.
because they decided to do the big plane crash scene before that. They had to kind of intercut her stuff into that, and it's sort of like, I guess it's nice you have something to cut away to, but at the same time, I totally agree. I was watching that and I was like, oh, is she going to get on the plane? Is that why we're seeing this stuff about her? And I was like, no, the plane took off. Or it's like, oh, is that his wife that he was talking to on the phone at the beginning of the story? And it's like, no, that's not her. And I agree, that was very confusing.
Yeah, she works, and her character works within the context of the movie, especially sort of in the last third of the film, but it just really stands out. It's just not in a good way. Like this was even before the movie was over. I was just like, okay, what is her role in this movie? And so I don't know if her introduction or sort of her role was honestly even necessary.
Yeah.
Thought maybe that character could have been introduced in a different way.
Yeah.
But Denzel is fantastic in this
he's
movie.
amazing.
This is one of his best roles in a long time. We talked about sort of Unstoppable, which was one of his more recent roles, and that's just Denzel playing Denzel. Like he's just chewing up the screen. Whereas this, you really get the sense that he's trying to play a real person with real problems.
Yeah.
Still charismatic in his own way, as Denzel tends to play things, but you connect with him in a really different way.
It reminded me of like his performance in Training Day, where he's not meant to be the hero, but he's still like the lead. He thinks of himself as a hero, but he's the audience is sort of mixed. But it was very toned down.
Right.
It was a very toned down version of that.
Yeah.
And I loved that because I didn't really care for Training Day that much. I thought it was kind of over the top and kind of crazy. But I loved that aspect of it. The other actor I loved in this was Don Cheadle.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I've seen him. I mean, it's not the kind of part that like an established actor normally takes.
Yeah.
Like I would have expected to see like an up-and-coming actor in that role, somebody who hasn't done a lot. But he took it, and he's so slimy, but you're rooting for him.
Yeah.
You're rooting for him because, and I don't know why, but as it goes deeper and deeper, you're like, oh, he's just awful.
Well, he's really the only person when it comes down to it that has any sort of potential to save Denzel Washington's character from all this mess.
Yeah.
And sort of he's coaching him, and there's steps along the way that either go right or wrong, and he's sort of the connection between the corporate and the public. Yeah. And he's that guy behind the scenes that's like, oh, this didn't exist. Like, oh, this piece of paper no longer is here.
Exactly.
And it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
And you feel like in real life, I really don't want that guy to exist. I don't want that guy to be able to get around these rules. But at the same time, in the movie, you're like, yeah, way to go. It's like, wait, no, why am I rooting for this guy? Why am I excited that he did this horrible thing? But it's excellently directed. And I love the structure of it for the most part, except for, that one little strangeness there. The acting was great. This one could have won like the SAG Award for Best Cast. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it got nominated for Best Overall Cast, because everyone just really did their part, and it just had a lot of really great acting moments.
And that's the thing. Like, prior to the Oscars, especially in the episodes when we were sort of discussing the Best Actor category, we were all kind of wondering, like, what is he doing in this category? He totally deserves to be in that category with everybody else. He really earned that nomination. That's I was really impressed. And this was, I think I watched this prior to the Sunday telecast. So I wasn't going in thinking that he was going to win it. By all means, Daniel Day-Lewis totally deserved to win, and so. But he was definitely the nomination was wholeheartedly deserved. So if you want to see it, I highly recommend it. It does start off with pretty much full frontal nudity.
Yes,
it all makes sense in the context of the movie. But if that is bothersome to you, it's the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
and then after that, perfectly fine. So you could probably get by with skipping ahead. And then the rest of the movie's pretty solid in that department. Yeah, but it makes sense. Zemeckis doesn't. I mean, I don't know if that's the first time he's sort of done that.
I don't
know.
In a movie. Maybe not that explicit. Maybe not that where it's just like it's not just like it skipped past something and you're like, wait, was somebody naked? It's like no. It's like no. There's.
I mean, and it was done in a realistic way too. It wasn't sort of just like we're doing this because we can. It was like no, this would actually. This is how this scene would play out in real life. So and I appreciated that. Sure. So yeah, Flight. I recommend it.
I love it. Love it. A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.